Whereas Mercury is the planet of skills, talents, speech, and thoughts, it gains essential dignity in Gemini and Virgo. It loses essential dignity in Sagittarius and Pisces. This does not necessarily mean that people with these Mercury placements are stupid or incapable of communication. It just means that their talents are often contrary to what Mercury is commonly associated with. But even with Mercury in Pisces, you can still be a pundit of social commentary and a force for social justice, just as these three women will show you. Number 1, Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
I hear music in the air, up above my head.
Born 20th March of 1915 in Cotton Plant, Arkansas, as Rosetta Newben, Sister Rosetta Tharpe was raised in the highly conservative religious environment of the Church of God in Christ. Her family performed regularly for the church all over the American South before joining the Great Migration to move to Chicago, Illinois sometime in the 1920s. Before she hit 20, Tharpe was already considered a musical prodigy. In 1934, she married Thomas Thorpe, who himself was a preacher for Kojic. Their marriage was short-lived, however, and after she divorced her husband in 1938, she took Tharpe, a variation of her ex-husband's last name, as her own. Later that year, on 31st October, she recorded for the first time for Decca Records. While her music was received well by secular audiences, the religious community was shocked and appalled at gospel elements being blended with the risque and burlesque nature of her music, causing the religious community to shun her. Though Sister Rosetta was directly influential to later, more famous performers like Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee, and Little Richard, she never lived to properly receive her flowers. She died in 1973 at the age of 58 as the result of a stroke. It wasn't until 2007 she was inducted to the Blues Hall of Fame, then the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 10 years later in 2017. Depicted here in an astro-themed style natal chart that assumes her rising sign is 12 Cancer, it's highly likely that Sister Rosetta was a moon in Taurus with a Pisces stellium of Sun, Jupiter, Mars, and Mercury. This undoubtedly would give her a creative and artistic flair, and while this chart can't be verified, having all of these placements in the 9th house would be supported by her upbringing, which was dominated by religion. Number 2, Maya Angelou.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise.
Maya Angelou was born Marguerite Annie Johnson in St. Louis, Missouri on April 4th, 1928. As a young girl of just 3 years old, she was sent to Stamps, Arkansas by her father to live with his mother, Annie Henderson. A few years later, her father once again forced her to move, this time back to St. Louis to stay with Johnson's mother, Vivian, where she was sexually abused by her mother's boyfriend, who was later murdered after only spending one night in jail for the crime. After his death, Johnson became mute for nearly 5 years, as she believed her voice had killed him, an example of Piscean logic when blended with Mercury. Johnson's career as a dancer began after her first marriage in 1951, which was short-lived. In 1954, she changed her professional name to Maya Angelou, her nickname and her former married surname. Angelou's activism began in 1960, about a year after meeting American novelist John Killens, who encouraged her to concentrate on her writing career. Her career continued, eventually transitioning from dancer to writer, producer, narrator, and civil rights activist. Her first autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, published in 1969, was well received and highly regarded the world over. Maya Angelou is known for so much more as well, including her Emmy-nominated performance as Kunta Kinte's grandmother, Naya Boto, in the 1977 television miniseries Roots. By her death at age 86 in 2014, Maya Angelou was a highly accomplished black woman with numerous accolades, titles, and rewards. She is regarded as a paragon of black feminism, civil rights, and literary excellence. Since Maya Angelou is a Leo rising, her chart ruler is the Sun. The Sun is exalted, conjunct Jupiter, and in the ninth house where the Sun finds planetary joy. All the same, though, it's ruled by a Mars in Aquarius, which strips the Sun of essential dignity through reception. I believe that while this delayed her self-actualization, it magnified it once it finally happened. Her Mercury, applying a tight conjunction to her Venus in Pisces in her 8th house, gave her a communication style that was so compelling one might even call it sirenic. Whether or not one was listening, she would be heard. Maya Angelou's career was long spanning from 1951 to 2014. Her prominence didn't begin until the late 1960s. She had to endure a great deal of trauma and soul searching before achieving such great notoriety.
There I go.
That brings us to our final woman on this list. Number 3, Nina Simone.
I think what you're trying to ask is, why am I so insistent?
The High Priestess of Soul, Nina Simone, was born February 21st of 1933 in Tryon, North Carolina, as Eunice Kathleen Waymon. A prodigy on the piano, Waymon was acutely aware of racial injustice from an early age, refusing to play at her concert debut until her parents were allowed to return to the front row after initially being sent to the back to make room for white people. In 1950, after spending her summer at Juilliard, she applied to the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia, which only accepted 3 out of 72 applicants that year. After her application was denied, she asserted for the rest of her life that the institute denied her application because she was black, an accusation which the institute itself denies. After adopting the name Nina Simone in 1954, she gained popularity all the way through to 1964, where, in response to the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, she released her first civil protest song, Mississippi Goddamn.
Alabama's got me so upset. Tennessee made me lose my rest. And everybody knows about Mississippi Goddamn.
As she became more politically involved, she released less music, spending more time with legendary activists, including Malcolm X and MLK. Eventually, by 1970, Nina Simone had left the United States. Until she moved to southern France in 1993, Nina Simone lived in various locations, including Barbados, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom. While fighting a lengthy battle with breast cancer, she died in her sleep in 2003. Simone made immeasurable contributions to jazz, cabaret, and R&B. By using her musical platform to engage in social commentary about issues her racist contemporaries would have rather kept quiet, she demonstrated a level of bravery that I dare to describe as absolutely necessary.
Everybody is half dead. Everybody avoids everybody. All over the place, in most situations, most all of the time. I know I'm one of those everybody's. And to me, it is terrible. And so all I'm trying to do all the time is just to open people up so they can feel themselves and let themselves be open to somebody else.
Although she was mentally ill with bipolar disorder for most of her life, that never stopped her from being a force for change and a force for musical excellence. An Aquarius rising, with Saturn directly on her ascendant as a morning star, which is a planet which rises before the sun and remains above the horizon, at least until the sun is risen. I attribute this to her style of music and personality. Simone was not afraid to talk directly about the issues of civil importance. With her Pisces stellium of North Node nestled between Sun and Mercury, opposite her Virgo stellium of Mars, Jupiter, and Neptune, her ability to use music to specifically talk about social affairs is evident here. Also, this combination may explain her sudden violent outbursts and rapid changes in emotion, especially when combined with her moon in Capricorn in 12th house. Between this moon being in detriment and being locked away in the 12th house of exile, it's reasonable to say not only did she have a need for a physical outlet for her emotions, but that she also had a difficult relationship with them. While some people describe Nina Simone as serious, moody, and even dour, trust me, you would be too if you had a moon in Saturn like that. This concludes the video. Thank you for watching, and please remember to like and subscribe.